Hello, my name is Cameron Brunke. I am a teacher and educational activity coordinator at the Teoretic Szkoła Mea. First off, what is impromptu speaking? Most likely many students haven't had that much experience with improvisation or impromptu speaking, which is essentially you're given a topic that you're not prepared for, and then you have a certain amount of time to prepare for it, and then you make a presentation on that topic. Now at WordFest, for impromptu speaking, you have 1 minute to prepare once you've selected your topic. And again, the topic is not one that you will be aware of beforehand. After your 1 minute, then you have a 2 to 3 minute presentation about that topic. So to clarify, let me give you an example. Let's say you have chosen your topic from a box or the bag, and the piece of paper says Pepsi. Now you have 1 minute to prepare a 2 to 3 minute presentation on Pepsi. So maybe you have some note cards, which is perfectly legal. You can have note cards. And on the note cards you make some plan to your structure, what will be the beginning, the middle, the end. Ending is very important, but we'll talk about structure in a little bit. So I planned my speech, and for example, I have an idea that I would like to tell the story about when I had my first Pepsi as a kid. So I make some notes, some dates, how old I was, who was there, maybe a funny joke or two, and I know that my conclusion will be when I actually open the Pepsi for the first time after I built up towards that. Well, my 1 minute is up. I now go up in front of the judge and the other contestants in the room who are also participating, and then I just start. Nothing is fully written down. There's no script. It's just me. So whatever comes out of my mouth at that moment, in an impromptu fashion, will be what the judge listens to and marks and grades. Of course, I'm going to be using my face, my hands, etc., and we'll talk about that in a moment. And at the end of 2 to 3 minutes, I'm then finished. I say thank you. Hopefully I've reached a conclusion by then, and then I sit down. And that's basically how impromptu speaking will be run at this year's competition. The best way to go about preparing for impromptu speaking is to read a lot, maybe watch a lot about current events, and expose yourself to just lots of different ideas and styles. Maybe read a few newspaper articles, magazine articles, a few fantasy books, a few fiction books. Most likely something that you're interested in will be something that also sticks. So how can this help? Basically, you're creating this storeroom of experience and storylines and references and characters that you can then draw from when you are preparing for your impromptu speaking in that 1 minute time slot. For example, when I said earlier about Pepsi, I drew from a personal experience. However, maybe I also read some facts about Pepsi, maybe the amount of sugar it contains, some of their advertising that they've done in the past, the sales, how much income they make, something like that. A few facts I could throw out. Again, it's not necessary to memorize facts. This isn't a debate, and it won't necessarily help you win or gain more points from the judges, but it might help you be more confident, especially when you start moving forward in your structure. So the best way to prepare, of course, is just if you can't have lots of information. Secondly, find some good friends who are willing to listen to you. Ask them to throw a topic at you, or a word, a phrase, a song title, and then you have to do just some improv at home with your friends. You can even film yourself, which is a great idea. Film yourself with your phone and then watch it afterwards and see, okay, how did it make sense? How did I use my hands? How did I move? Did I look at the audience? Etc. You can use lyrics, you can use references to books, you can use names, capital cities, etc. All of these things. But again, those are like little reference points. You still need to have a nice structure and some kind of speech or idea that moves forward. I would strongly recommend choosing a structure that you're comfortable with, something that you can easily work with or associate with, either through personal experience, memories, maybe books that you prefer, movie styles that you prefer, etc. And that way you won't be trying to go out of your comfort zone too far, and instead you'll have more of an honest presentation, which I think most judges and other videos on the WordFest website will definitely agree with. That obviously things should also, come up from up here if you can have facts and the story, etc. But it also helps in a dramatic fashion if the story comes from a more feeling, personal state. So for example, again, when I said Pepsi, and I chose Pepsi, and I decided to tell a story about the first time I had a Pepsi, maybe as a child. Well, it's a memory. So immediately I have something that I can relate to, that I can be honest about. Maybe I can express a little bit of emotion, and it makes life just a lot easier. And definitely, it's more honest that way. That's telling a story. That's just one example of a structure. I could have also chosen to do an advertisement. Again, it's impromptu speaking. I could have done a TV commercial about Pepsi, for example. I could have said, Pepsi, are you feeling blue? Are you feeling down? A Pepsi is for you. Let me explain why. Some students might feel more comfortable with this sort of comedy style TV infomercial sales pitch. If you practice it at home and you're comfortable with it, that would be a great thing to do for impromptu speaking. Some students might feel more comfortable with a serious sort of a speech, a straight speech approach. They could talk about the benefits, the health benefits, and the unhealthy factors associated with drinking colas in general. And then they could just follow sort of a standard essay outline with a beginning, a middle, and a conclusion. Other people might have a combination of the two. Regardless how you combine it, or whether you choose to tell a story or a TV commercial or just straightforward speech, it's important that you have a structure within that sort of genre or category. Beginning, middle, and end. Ending is probably the most important. You want to leave the judge and the other students in the classroom with the feeling that you've reached your goal, you've reached your main idea, and that when you say thank you at the end, it definitely feels like you've made your point. Like in all the other categories at WordFest, when you're presenting a speech or your story, a poem, or you're acting, of course your voice is very, very important. You want to speak clearly, loud enough to be heard. You definitely want to show emotion when necessary, and to stop. And maybe to go a little bit fast sometimes. But also not to be afraid to pause and let the suspense, if that's what it is, build up, or just to let the idea get across to the audience. In impromptu speaking, there might be a danger of going very fast and just kind of getting everything across like this, and blah, 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 thinking that the faster you speak and the more information you get across, somehow it's a better speech. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes your audience does need time to process and think about what you've said, especially if you've said many things in a row. And sometimes it's just nice to stop and let the silence speak for itself and get the audience's attention very much focused on you. Use your hands, like I'm doing now. Some people are very comfortable with it. You don't have to go crazy with using your hands, but sometimes it's nice if you're making a point to show it with your hand, and maybe you have a contrasting point, you can use your other hand. However you're comfortable with it, do that. I would definitely not fake using my hands in an artificial way. Your face, eyes should all reflect about what you're trying to say, whether you're serious or humorous or sad, etc. Especially for acting with impromptu speaking, your face might express a lot more than you know, because you're creating and you're thinking of the words and everything all at the same time. So in that case, it might be important to stop and let even yourself catch up to what you've said. And maybe at that point, look around the room, make eye contact with the judge, with the other students, and make sure that how you look is actually connecting to how you're feeling or whatever you're saying in your presentation. Overall, the general advice I would give to a student who's maybe trying impromptu speaking for the first time especially is to, it's easy to say, relax, enjoy it, it'll be fun. It's most likely it's not going to be perfect. Nobody, especially the judges, are looking for a perfect impromptu speaking presentation. If it's funny and you want it to be funny, that's great. If it's funny but you meant it to be serious, maybe just go with it. If they start laughing and you say, wow, they're laughing at something I wasn't expecting, just use it. You only have 2 to 3 minutes. It won't last a lifetime, even though when you're up there it might feel like 2 to 3 minutes is taking forever. For some people it might seem like too short of a time and you're trying to pack it all in there. Whatever it is, just be yourself, have fun, enjoy it, think of it as your first time experience with impromptu speaking or improvisation, and maybe next year and the year after that you can build on it. Maybe this is something you'd like to do more of in the classroom at school, something you do with your friends at home, and when you get the feedback afterwards from the judges, definitely listen to it, write it down, use it for next year or for whenever, because I think the advice they give you will be really, really important for how you present yourself in future competitions. Personally, I'm very excited about WordFest. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. For me, one of the most important things is bringing together students from different schools that maybe wouldn't have the chance to socialize normally. Again, the festival part and the competition are important, but just being able to talk to other students who are also competing in the acting category or the poetry category and saying, all right, well, what did you do? Did you write your own material? What was it like for you? Are you nervous? Are you excited? How long have you been writing poetry? Etc. Then you can exchange emails, and before you know it, maybe you've even made some new friends. So it's definitely, the social aspect is one of the things I'm really looking forward to at this year's WordFest.